Hey, welcome back to the Cybersecurity Whisperer for the week of January 26th. Hope you're having a great week. We're going to start off with Microsoft. There is a zero-click RCE for Microsoft Outlook, and so this one is different because simply previewing a malicious email, an RTF in a file in Microsoft Outlook can trigger the exploit. Again, no clicks needed. So, most RCE exploits, they hinge on the user actions like clicking a malicious link or running an executable. But this one requires minimal interaction. Simply previewing a malicious RTF file in Outlook can trigger the exploit. Again, that's it. So whether you've got, all the way from Windows Server 2008 through Server 2025 or Windows 10 or 11, all of these systems are impacted, although Exchange Server or Outlook by themselves aren't directly vulnerable because they act as delivery channels if they handle these specially crafted RTF emails. So again, the January 2025 patches that were issued by Microsoft, they explicitly address this bug, and so you need to make sure you're patching those as soon as possible, especially in high-risk environments that frequently handle RTF-type files. Again, even with patches, best practices like restricting previews or enabling advanced threat detection, segmenting networks, all the standard basic security controls will certainly help reduce the risk of any large-scale type compromise. Here's an interesting one. You talk about, it's great that we have these internet-connected cars. You can do things like remote start. You can get notifications, if you've got a flat tire while you're sitting in the office or something. But Subarus call their control, their infotainment system, they call it Starlink, not to be confused with the Starlink satellites from Elon. But researchers back in November of last year discovered a security vulnerability in Subaru's Starlink connected vehicle service that gave unrestricted targeted access to all vehicles and customer accounts in the US, Canada, and Japan. It's crazy. Using the access provided by the vulnerability, an attacker who only knew the victim's last name and zip code, email address, phone number, or license plate, could have done the following. They could have remotely start, stop, lock, unlock, retrieve the current location, just like what you can do from your app for the vehicle, retrieve any vehicle's complete location history for the past year to within 5 meters, and update it each time the engine starts. You can query PII of any customer, including, again, your emergency contacts, your authorized users, physical address, billing information, the vehicle PIN, which is used usually to start the vehicles and things remotely, and then user data, call history, if you've got that in your car, previous owners and such. So thankfully, after reporting the vulnerability, the researchers, it was fixed within 24 hours and never exploited maliciously. So kudos to Subaru and for the researcher for doing it the right way and reporting that to them. Now, many of you with kids in schools are familiar with the company PowerSchool. They pretty much got a monopoly on handling the grade systems. It's kind of like a CRM system. It is like a customer relationship management system, but for schools. So it's got everything you could think about for all the school kids. And so they got breached, and parents, students, teachers, and administrators throughout North America, this is the biggest data breach so far, of course, of 2025. And it came to light earlier this month, and they're based, again, PowerSchool is based in California. They provide cloud-based software to, it says 16,000 schools, K through 12 schools. So you can imagine how many students that is, 60 million students. And so besides providing software for administration, grades, and other functions, they store personal data for teachers, students, including Social Security numbers, medical information. If you've got a note, that you send with your student for the nurse or something that they need to take certain medications, home addresses. And so on January 7th, PowerSchool revealed they'd experienced a network intrusion 2 weeks earlier that resulted in unauthorized exploitation and exporting of personal information and their student information system, including names, contact information, dates of birth, medical alert information, socials, and other unspecified information. Since then, schools throughout the U.S. and Canada have reported devastating fallout. They are notifying parents, students, former students. One school district, said between 1985 and 2024, and the data, the list is too long, but it's, your medical information, allergies, your home address, your student numbers, disciplinary notes, all kind of information. So again, that's going to be used to open credit, fake credit accounts and and other things. So certainly, again, we've always said you need to lock your credit. You need to lock the credit of your students and your kids. If you've not done that, I'll certainly link to how you can do that. It's free, and I highly recommend you do that. Now, for those that are using MacBooks, macOS, and you use Homebrew, those users were being targeted with info stealing malware. And again, this is a newly discovered, it's a Malvertising campaign, meaning ads using for macOS users. And it's caused via a fake Homebrew website. And the bad guys relied on Google advertisements for the popular open source package manager Homebrew. And Homebrew allows macOS and Linux users to install open source software using their regular terminal. And so they were displaying the link to the legitimate Homebrew site, such as brew.sh. However, once the users clicked on the ads, they were redirected to a fake Homebrew site, which was brewe.sh. So it had an extra E. And we're going to have another story a little later with a spelling error and how critical that is. It seems silly. The rogue website contained a curl command to deliver malware, and visitors were prompted to run the command to install Homebrew, but they ended up infecting their systems with the Amos Stealer. It's an info stealer malware instead. And again, it was hosted on AA Panel, which is... they were informed about the abuse, and Google has taken down the malicious ads, but it is unclear how the threat actor was able to trick the internet giants' crawlers into seeing the legitimate Homebrew URL instead of the fake one. And Google has confirmed that the advertiser accounts associated with the campaign have been suspended, and they're just continuing to investigate and improve on their detection capabilities. Here's an interesting one. Most all of us use Let's Encrypt. Phenomenal platform. Again, free SSL certificates for your websites. They announced this week they're ending support for expiration notification emails. You know, a lot of us think emails are free, and they're not, right? Somebody's got to pay to store them, to send them. And so since its inception, Let's Encrypt has been sending expiration notification emails to subscribers that have provided an email address, and they're going to be ending this on June 4th of 2025. And it's based on a number of reasons. To think about over the past 10 years, more and more of the Let's Encrypt users, they're really now... they're doing automated renewals. And so their system is automatically renewing it every 90 days. So they've got automation in place for that. And providing these expiration notification emails means that they have to retain millions of email addresses connected to issuance records. And they're, they say as an org that values privacy, they want to remove that requirement. They don't want to store your email addresses. And also, providing these expiration emails costs Let's Encrypt tens of thousands of dollars a year, money that they believe can be better spent on other aspects of their infrastructure. Makes sense. It also, providing these emails adds complexity to their infrastructure, which takes time and attention to manage and increases the likelihood of mistakes being made. And so they want to spend more time managing the overall complexity by phasing out these components that can no longer be justified. And so they've got a recommendation for those that want to continue receiving them to use a third-party service such as Redshift Certificates Lite, which was formerly Hardenize. And again, while they're minimizing the email addresses that they retain connected to issuance data, you can still opt in to receive other emails about technical updates or other news from Let's Encrypt or their parent, a nonprofit ISRG. So heads up there. And now we continue to talk about AI and how it's being maybe misused or used without your permission. We talked about Apple doing that last week. This week, LinkedIn is accused of using private messages to train their AI. So a lawsuit has been filed on behalf of LinkedIn Premium users, and that accusing the social media platform of sharing their private messages with other companies to train AI models. It alleges that in August of last year, the world's largest professional social networking website quietly introduced a privacy setting, automatically opting users into a program that allowed third parties to use their personal data to train AI. And it also accuses the Microsoft-owned company of concealing its actions a month later by changing its privacy policies to say user info could be disclosed for AI training purposes. And of course, a LinkedIn spokesperson said, these are false claims with no merit. The filing also said LinkedIn changed its FAQs to say that users could choose not to share data for AI purposes, but that doing so would not affect training that had already taken place. I mean, LinkedIn's actions include a pattern of attempting to cover its tracks, the lawsuit said. The behavior suggests that LinkedIn was fully aware it had violated the contractual promises and privacy standards and aimed to minimize public scrutiny. The lawsuit was filed in the California federal court on behalf of all LinkedIn premium users and other users in a similar situation. Continuing with AI, again, everything used for good will be used for bad. There's a powerful AI tool that police officers, law enforcement, or stalkers, unfortunately, right, can use to geolocate photos in seconds. It's a super powerful AI tool. It can predict with high accuracy the location of photos based on features in the image itself, such as vegetation, architecture, the distance between buildings, and it can do this in seconds. With the company now marketing the tool to law enforcement officers and government agencies. It's called Geosy, real original name, made by a firm called Greylark Technologies out of Boston. The tool has also been used for months by members of the public, with many making videos marveling at the technology and some asking for help with stalking specific women. The company's founder has aggressively pushed back against such requests, and Geosy closed off public access to the tool after this 404 Media contacted them for comment. Based on 404 Media's tests and conversations with other people who've used the tool, Geosy could radically change what information can be learned from photos posted online and by whom. Now, again, law enforcement officers with very little training, private threat intelligence companies, and stalkers could, in some cases, already are using the technology. Again, it's dedicated open source intelligence professionals. They can, of course, do this, but the training and skill set necessary can take years to build up, and Geosy allows essentially anyone to do it. Because, see, it's been trained on millions of images from around the world. And from that, the tool is able to recognize distinct geographical markers, architectural styles, soil characteristics, and their spatial relationships. And that, this marketing material says that Geosy has strong coverage in the U.S., but it also maintains global capabilities for location identification. So for the purpose of this article, 404 Media, they created a free account on Geosy earlier this month. And then they uploaded that famous picture of the man harassing a woman in a Waymo. And Geosy correctly geolocated the photo. The Soma Park Inn sign is visible in the video, which is located in San Francisco. The architecture of the buildings and the street signs also point to San Francisco. That's what it read out in seconds. So again, you got to be careful of what you're posting online. Often DNS, is way underrated in terms of how powerful and critical it is. Without DNS, the domain name system, we have no internet. And so MasterCard, the payment card giant, they just fixed a glaring error in their DNS server settings that could have allowed anyone to intercept or divert internet traffic for the company by registering an unused domain. And this misconfiguration persisted for nearly 5 years until a security researcher spent $300 to register the domain and prevent it from being grabbed by cyber criminals. So from June 30th of 2020 until just January 14th of 2025, again, one of the DNS servers that MasterCard uses to direct traffic for portions of the MasterCard.com domain was misnamed. See, they rely on 5 shared DNS servers, and they use Akamai, which a lot of companies do. Again, by translating website names to numeric internet addresses that are easier for computers to manage. And all of the Akamai DNS server names that MasterCard uses are supposed to end in AKAM.net. That's Akamai.net, but AKAM.net. But one of them was misspelled in their record, AKAM.ne. They left off the T. This tiny but potentially critical typo was discovered recently by a security researcher, and he guessed that nobody would have registered that, AKAM.ne, which is under the purview of the top-level domain authority from West Africa nation of Niger, and it took him $300 and 3 months of waiting to secure the domain. And after he did that in enabling a DNS server on AKAM.ne, he noticed hundreds of thousands of DNS requests hitting his server each day from locations around the globe, because apparently MasterCard wasn't the only org that had mistyped this DNS entry, but they were by far the largest. I want to tell you about this one. This is actually good. A developer created an infinite maze that traps AI training bots. And this coder created and released an open source tar pit to indefinitely trap AI training web crawlers in an infinitely random generating series of pages to waste their time and computing power. The program, called Nepenthes, after the genesis of carnivorous these pitcher plants which trap and consume their prey, can be deployed by web page owners to protect their own content from being scraped or being deployed offensively as a honeypot trap to waste AI companies' resources. It's less like flypaper and more, an infinite maze holding a minotaur, except the crawler is the minotaur that cannot get out. I mean, the typical web crawler, it doesn't appear to have a lot of logic. It just downloads a URL and it sees if it links to other URLs, and it downloads those too. Well, this Nepenthes, it generates random links that always point back to itself. And so the crawler downloads those new links, and it just happily returns more and more list of links pointing back to itself. Of course, these crawlers are massively scaled and are downloading links from large swaths of the internet at any given time, but they are still consuming resources, spinning around, doing nothing helpful, unless they find a way to detect that they are stuck in this loop. And finally, I want to end, we always talk about how you can connect, your company security to your personal security, and that's how you really change, I think, culture and habits within people. And so Consumer Electronics Show this, past week in Vegas, Yubico, they urging issuing hardware authentication for employees' personal use. Of course, it benefits them, but Yubico is, the YubiKey is a phenomenal technology. And so they're saying that enterprises can secure themselves by helping their employees secure their personal lives. And again, that was the message from their booth at CES 2025 in Vegas. They argued that enterprises should encourage employees to use these work-issued hardware authentication devices to secure their personal accounts and data as well. In fact, that's increasingly becoming a trend as orgs realize compromised personal accounts can lead to breaches at work. For example, a 2023 survey by security and compliance firm agency found that 97% of executives access work accounts from personal devices, which are generally outside the org's control. And so if within the org you're teaching good security hygiene, and because there's no shared secrets on the YubiKey itself, they're starting to see a lot of customers who suggest to their employees to actually utilize the YubiKeys on their home accounts as well. And since employers can simply revoke work credentials and YubiKeys have such low price point, the basic NFC key costs $25. There's not even much of a reason for them to ask for departing employees to turn them in. It would probably cost more to take the keys and reprovision them than starting fresh with new employees. And so again, something for you to consider, and certainly something that's worthwhile. So again, thanks for listening. We encourage you to like and subscribe and send us any questions you have. Have a great week.